Gary, we sit here with a free week with no midweek games. How are you using that to your benefit as we lead up to West Brom?
Yeah, I think you look at areas of the pitch and areas that perhaps we need to improve on. But I think you're always looking to do that, regardless of what sort of run you're in, good, bad, indifferent. You're always looking to try and improve. So we spent the week honing a few areas where we feel we need to get better, particularly in the final, the mid third and the final third, because we've struggled a little bit to score goals in the last 3 or 4 games. But I think that's also the natural cycle of the championship and the competitive nature of the championship. So, but yeah, it's been a good week so far. It's been certainly a nice opportunity to get some good training sessions in.
Do you mind if I ask some of the specifics of what do you do in that situation to try and find those improvements in the final third?
Yeah, I think there's no golden recipe. I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think when you haven't scored in sort of 3 or 4 games consistently, I think everyone thinks there's a natural remedy there just waiting to be there. Do you know what I mean? And it isn't. It's hard work. It's hard work. It's confidence. It's putting people in the positions. It's working on 1 or 2 tweaks to the system or how we play the system or some of the movements within the system. But ultimately, it's about trying to get players and give players the opportunity to go and express themselves and show their quality. And like I said, this league is a very, very difficult league. You know, just as when we score 3 goals or 2 goals in the first 3 or 4 home games, you don't get too carried away when you don't then score the goals. I think sometimes there's such a fine balance between those performances, as we've shown, because we've been incredibly competitive even in the last sort of 3 or 4 games. So yeah, that's all it is. It's just hard work. It's trying to show people little clips of stuff. It's sitting down with the players and working with them. But ultimately, it all comes down to the same thing. We've got a squad, and we've got to try and my job's to try and get the best out of that squad, however that works.
Do you focus more on getting the boys into position to have the goal scoring opportunities, or is there anything you can do to try and finesse that moment once you get to that point? Because we did create chances on Saturday.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. I think you try and structurally help them get into the positions. I think the final third predominantly is quite a difficult area to necessarily. You can coach the movements, you can coach some of the finer details of it, but I think it's difficult in that moment to, the 2 moments, let's say for argument's sake, on Saturday, where I don't think there's a lot you can work on apart from repetition of getting players into those positions and finishing them off. I think 9 times out of 10, I'm sure if you ask Stan and Matty after the game, I think they would expect themselves to score in those positions, and so therefore it's just 1 moment where we haven't quite taken it. But that's fine. Players are human, and not everybody performs perfectly in every single moment of the game. So, but that's how games can swing. We go and score those 2 moments, and you probably win the game in the end. But yeah, so a little bit of everything. I think I'm a big believer that it's about the repetition of work. It's trying to create repetition in realistic moments in the games. I think anybody can go and do a finishing drill, whether it's unopposed, but I think it's trying to get the right level of opposition so the players can practice in a realistic scenario where there's a little bit of pressure, but it's still not the same pressure as a game, right?
Those lads that did come off the bench on Saturday made a real difference, in Stan and Matty and Ola as well. Particularly with Ola, probably there can be an expectation as a supporter when you sign a player, they'll come in and hit the ground running straight away. Is he an example of just having to be a little bit more patient in building with them?
Well, I think you always feel that from someone who's coming from a different league and a different culture and a different intensity level. I've had it with players before, particularly from Holland, where you come in and sometimes it takes a little bit of time to, even though the player wants to play straight away, I think every player does, it takes a while to get used to that intensity and get used to that sort of different type of fitness level, different type of sort of endurance, but I think what he showed and what the other players showed, and we haven't had enough of it on the bench. I don't think we've had quite enough impact that I would like and I would expect, and that's something we've certainly want to be better at. But I thought the players coming onto the pitch on Saturday certainly gave the team it's their job to do that. That's them doing their job and nothing else. But I thought they certainly gave the team a lift. They gave the performers a lift, and it's definitely given me food for thought for the weekend.
Any updates at all on Greg, who went off? I mean, I suppose we're quite fortunate. We've got quite a few options at left back as well. Joe Bennett's in the building that's not managed to get a look in as of yet. But any updates on Greg?
I think Greg's going to be sort of a good few weeks. I think the hamstring injury was a little bit worse at first. He felt as though didn't feel too bad, but of course, you can't see inside his leg at that point and see what the damage is. But yeah, so it'll be a blow for us. I think he's been a big part of how we've played, and we're going to have to sort of adjust a little bit in terms of some of our attacking movements and rotations. But like you say, you've got the likes of Joe, you've got the likes of Brownie, the likes of Longley that's played there, Hide has played there. So we've got plenty of bodies, plenty of options, and it will give someone else, I'm sure, an opportunity to show what they can do. So yeah, it looks as though he's probably going to be, I would say up until maybe the international break, you're probably going to be out for. So him and Bradders are probably in a similar, Ben Nelson probably similar. So you've probably got 3 players that I would imagine, if we see any of those before the international break, it'll be a massive bonus.
Yeah. This Saturday, going away to West Brom, a top 6 team, and against a manager, Tony Mowbray, who I assume you know pretty well.
Yeah, I know Tony pretty well. I obviously followed him at Birmingham, and had good chats with him in what was a really difficult situation for him. I think it probably shows everybody how the football world feel about Tony Mowbray, because I think the support externally, I'm sure Tony will say was incredible. It's great. I think everyone's pleased to see him back in and back healthy. I'm sure he probably doesn't want to talk about it anymore, and it's about him being a manager. But certainly I think that's the first thing. It's great to see him back out there. And what you've seen straight away is he's an experienced Championship manager. So, but I've been up against him a number of times. I've obviously been to the Hawthorns a number of times as an opposition manager, and whilst it's never an easy place to go, of course you have to go there with a strong game plan to go and try and get the 3 points. We know it'll be a tough challenge, but I think any of these types of games are a tough challenge. In fact, any away game's been a tough challenge for us because we've won one of them all season. So, but I think we've shown a lot more solidity away from home in recent weeks. Would like us to be a little bit more creative, but again, you can't always pick and choose what your performance looks like in some of these games, because you're playing against very, very good teams and very good players.
Yeah, it just shows you how unrelenting the league is, because go away to West Brom, a team in 6th this weekend. Then the following week we've got Coventry at home, who are doing extremely well under Frank Lampard, just a point behind West Brom in 7th place and pushing for the playoffs. So it just never stops, does it? No,
but that's the challenge of a league, isn't it? That's a great challenge of a league. That's the position we've put ourselves in, that we expect to be competing against these teams. I think that's firstly a massive compliment to the players and the staff of the work that has been done since we've come in to get us into that position. The challenge for that is you've got to maintain it, and you've got to maintain against very good teams who will expect to win these types of games. What we've got to do is make sure that we get everything spot on and get everything right, and we play in the same manner that we did against the likes of Blackburn, the likes of different games at home that we've played against Burnley away, which I thought was was a lot of encouraging parts of the performance, and other away games. So yeah, the challenge doesn't change. The challenge can look slightly more daunting if you start looking at where teams are in the league, but I don't think it changes your outcome or changes your outlook at a game. So it's up to us to get results. I think we've put ourselves in a brilliant position to go and be able to be ambitious enough to do that, and it's not over to the players, but it's it's down to us to now perform and get something out of those games.
Super. Thank you.
Fabulous.